Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Saints Insider Postgame Show brought to you by the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. I'm Zach Ewing live here at the Caesars Superdome after the Saints' 33-10 loss to the Denver Broncos. Show your comments and questions live on the air here. We're brought to you by Two-Lane Doctors. We only ask that you keep those comments clean if you can. I know it might be difficult on a night like tonight, but we're ready and rolling. Denver wins this one 33-10. Quite frankly, an embarrassment for the New Orleans Saints tonight. They're down 33-3 before they get the last touchdown with about a minute and a half to play. They were outplayed in every way imaginable. They fall to 2-5, their fifth straight defeat after the 2-0 start, and they're in free fall. There's really no other word for it. I know there will be a lot of comments tonight about firing Dennis Allen, and I know that we have kind of repeatedly said on the Saints Insider, it is not the Saints' MO to fire coaches midseason. Dennis Allen's job is safe. Mickey Loomis even said as much this week. So let's just start there. I still don't think it's likely. I will say tonight's the first night I've started to wonder the same thing. Will Dennis Allen make it to the end of the season? Having said that, he has some built-in excuses. This is just a shell of the team that it was in weeks 1 and 2. The injury list is long, and it is full of important names, starting with Derek Carr, of course. All the hope and the newness of Spencer Rattler kind of wore off tonight. He was not very good. Completion percentage was not good. A couple of bad turnovers. One of them returned for a touchdown at the end that was really kind of the last straw, and this one that made it 33-3. So the shine is off of Spencer Rattler. Of course, the receivers are out. We learned earlier today Rashid Shaheed is out for the season. He had meniscus surgery in L.A. today. Chris Olave was out with a concussion tonight. Offensive line is in shambles, as we know. And then the injuries started to extend to the defense tonight. Both of your top two cornerbacks, Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo, both left the game with injury. Adebo's looking serious. He left the game in an air cast. Amazon Prime broadcast reported that he was taken to a local hospital via ambulance. Sounds like another surgery situation, so you may have lost Paulson Adebo for the season. So the injuries are starting to pile up. Now, having said that, every team in the NFL has some injuries. Not every team in the NFL is down 33-3 at home in not a must-win game, but certainly a game you're desperate for against your old coach. Plenty of motivation, all of that sort of stuff. And the Saints just no-showed. The guys who are out there, I think you have to question the effort at times. I thought Alvin Kamara looked like he was giving, maybe 75% sometimes. I thought the defense at times was giving maybe less than that. You look at Javonte Williams' first touchdown run for the Broncos, a huge hole that he ran through for that 8-yard gain, just a huge hole. So we have lots to talk about tonight. We'll be joined by Times-Picayune columnists Jeff Duncan and Rod Walker, and our Saints beat writers Luke Johnson and Matthew Paris as they emerge from the Saints locker room. And actually, Rod went to the Broncos locker room tonight to see what Sean Payton had to say after that one. So we will get a report from him as well. And if you have any comments besides just the run-of-the-mill, I'm pissed off and I want to fire DA, we'll show those. We'll answer questions as well. So your final was 33-10. Broncos outgained the Saints 389-271. I think that makes it look better than it was. Rushing was 225-97. Broncos rushed for 6.4 yards per carry. Just not a good effort by what was once a proud defense not that long ago. So we got plenty to talk about tonight. Saints Insider postgame coverage is brought to you by Two-Lane Doctors. Now at East Jefferson General Hospital, Two-Lane Doctors are bringing academic medicine to more patients in new communities. Look for the shield to know the future of medicine is here. Call 504-988-5000 to schedule with any Two-Lane doctor or visit twolanedoctors.com. So our thanks to Two-Lane Doctors. And Rod says Sean Payton still hasn't come to his post-game press conference, so I wonder if that means he's kind of celebrating at this point. Obviously, a very proud night for Sean Payton. We'll talk about Drew Brees, too. Clearly, for Saints fans, the only highlight of the night was the halftime ceremony in which Drew Brees was inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. Technically, he was inducted at a luncheon this afternoon and then had the in-game ceremony at halftime. He gave kind of a succinct but heartfelt speech. I thought he led the crowd in the wind cheer he used to lead players in. and then he was let off the field by a second line. So kind of a cool moment, not kind of, a very cool moment for Drew Brees and for the Saints. But we'll talk to Jeff Duncan about it, but his column tonight, which you can read on NOLA.com/Saints, was, on a night in which Drew Brees was honored and Sean Payton returned, the Saints feel like they're as far from that era as they've ever been. It felt like a return to the 80s and the bag years of the late 90s and things like that. So just a rough night all around. And this is just crazy. It's just over a month ago we're in Dallas talking about a 2-0 start, 91 points in 2 games. Obviously the injuries have taken their toll, no question about that, but it should not be this bad. It should not be 33-10 in a game that maybe wasn't even that close. Rosenfield 10, if the Saints had competent scouting and a better front office, we'd have better depth and better starters. It's definitely part of the problem. I mean, Drew Brees was here tonight. For many years toward the end of Drew Brees' career, the Saints made salary cap concessions toward the future to surround Brees with quality players and quality depth to make a run at the Super Bowl. You can't argue with that strategy. Look, they're trying to win a Super Bowl with one of the all-time great quarterbacks at the end of his career. Can't argue with that. But the piper needs to be paid at some point, and the Saints have continued to try to avoid doing that. But as they try to reset that salary cap, as they try not to spend their draft picks, and then you also have a season with a multitude of injuries like this one, this is what happens. And when the team has those injuries, it gets ugly fast. And I know a lot of people want to blame Dennis Allen for that. He has a hand in it, certainly. I don't think it's all him. I think Rosenfield, you're right on target with that. It's a failure by the entire organization to surround the Saints starters with depth. But some of that, again, unavoidable. You have to pay the piper at some point. Taylor says, not only have Loomis and Allen lost the locker room, they've officially lost the entire fan base. That's the danger to me. If you've lost the locker room and things get really, truly ugly as they did tonight, and they continue along that path. The Saints are 2-5 right now. They face the Los Angeles Chargers in 10 days. They'll be, even if Derek Carr comes back, I would think they'll be underdogs in that game. If he doesn't, they'll be significant underdogs. Then they go to Carolina. Boy, you better win that one. Certainly be 2-7 coming back here to the Dome on November the 10th when the Atlanta Falcons are here. And if that's the case, it could get ugly fast if you do lose that locker room. So that's a significant concern to me. We'll be back. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more from the Caesars Superdome here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show, awaiting visits from our Times-Picayune journalists inside the locker room. Be back right after this.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Your trusted Tulane doctors are now at East Jefferson General Hospital. Within these walls, you'll find our region's leaders in academic medicine, where state-of-the-art facilities house the innovation powered by Tulane medicine, where collaborative care and compassion meet, and where our commitment to patient outcomes means a healthier future for our community. Tulane doctors at East Jeff. When you see the shield, you'll know the future of medicine is here.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show here at the Caesars Superdome. I'm Zach Ewing. After the Saints' 33-10 loss to the Denver Broncos on this Thursday night, the Saints fall to 2-5, and we continue to go through, take your comments and questions here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. It's brought to you by Tulane Doctors. We go over some final stats here for the Saints. Spencer Rattler, 25 of 35, for 172 yards, just 4.9 yards per attempt. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 6 times tonight. He also had 2 lost fumbles, one of which was returned for a touchdown. Jake Haener came in. He was 3 of 4 for 38 yards and a touchdown. I wouldn't read too much into that. Haener going against a prevent defense there at the end of the game. Give him some credit for taking advantage of that, but certainly not something that the Saints are going to make a decision on starting, anything like that. I do think Rattler was pretty banged up at the end of that game. He took some pretty vicious hits in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter. One of his last plays was a scramble for 5 yards, and he was really limping on that scramble. And so I wonder if that's one reason why they went to Haener. So we'll have to see about that. I guess the only good news for the Saints is they go into a mini bye week here. It's a 10-day break before they play the Chargers out in California on October the 27th. So you get some time possibly to get some of these bodies back, some time to reset. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I don't think we're going to see a lot of movement this weekend unless Mickey Loomis decides to pull the plug on Dennis Allen, which, again, we've talked about how unlikely we think that is. But I will think early next week we'll see some personnel movement. They got to bring more players in. See about the injuries. There's guys, Taysom Hill maybe ready to come back next week. Cesar Ruiz is standing about 20 feet behind us. He's got his leg in a wrap. He's a guy maybe you could hope to get back. Eric McCoy, Derek Carr, maybe another week or 2 away. Maybe you get Chris Olave back. Marshawn Lattimore, it's a hamstring. Those could be finicky. We'll see. But, that's I guess, the bright spot is you get 10 days to kind of reset and maybe get some of these guys back and try to put your best effort out on the field, because if you can't do that in this situation out in L.A., the season is going south very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Other stats, Kendry Miller was team's leading rusher, 6 carries for 36 yards, nice even 6 yards a carry. Rattler had 34 yards rushing on 5 carries. Jamal Williams, 3 carries, 17 yards. Pretty good averages until you get to Alvin Kamara, and he had 7 rushes for 10 yards. I lost 7 on one play, so that'll kill the average. Cedric Wilson, leading receiver, 6 catches, 57 yards, and he had the touchdown from Haener. Mason Tipton, 6 catches for 45 yards. None of them longer than 9 yards, all short stuff to Mason Tipton. Foster Moreau, 2 receptions for 38 yards. And it's funny. Excuse me. Saints started this game by forcing the Broncos to punt. Broncos got a few yards. In fact, they went across the 50 on all of their first half possessions. But they did stall right after crossing the 50 on their first possession. Bo Nix misfired badly on a couple of passes, then had to throw one away as he was under pressure. So the Saints force a punt. And then the very first play from scrimmage was Spencer Rattler, pretty similar to the play against the Buccaneers on the first series. Play action, going Kamara over right tackle. Rattler rolls left, and he finds Foster Moreau wide open for a 32-yard gain. Dome was rocking and rolling at that point. You're out to the 40. Still scoreless, obviously. It went very quickly downhill from there. Looking at some of these other stats, Juwan Johnson, 3 catches, 18 yards. Bub Means, 3 catches, 37 yards. Alvin Kamara had 6 catches for 14 yards. So leading tackler was Jordan Howden with 8 tackles, up from the practice squad. Look, there's a lot of injuries, but there's also a lot of blame to go around here. I thought Rattler was poor. I thought Kamara was poor. I thought the offensive line obviously didn't show much improvement. Saw Nick Saldiveri leave with injury, another offensive line injury. They had Kyle Hergel in the game at guard in the second half. And on defense, it wasn't a whole lot better. I thought it played a little bit better in the second half once the game was out of hand. The defense got some stats, at least didn't totally quit. But in the first half, it was embarrassing from that defense. The Broncos came into the game 29th in the NFL in total offense, and they were going, as I said, up and down the field. They crossed the 50 on every first half possession, and got the field goal before halftime after Tyrann Mathieu dropped an easy interception. That made it 16-3, and it just got worse from there. So plenty of blame to go around. A couple of comments. Douglas says every season the Saints have a long injury list. It's a pattern, and I mean, excuse me, it is a pattern, and I think it's something they have to look at. What what's going on with the training staff. You particularly see soft tissue injuries every single summer in training camp. We saw another one with Lattimore tonight. Did not see what Saldiveri's injury was, but that may be another one. I mean, it's just 100% right, Douglas. It's something every team in the NFL deals with injuries. It seems like the Saints kind of go above and beyond. Stussy, why not trade Kamara and Lattimore before the deadline? You can try. I mean, Lattimore's hurt now. Kamara's banged up. I think given their salary situations, how they're performing, you're not getting much for either one of those guys. If you want a couple of 6th or 7th round picks, maybe some salary relief, you can go for it. But I don't think that's going to solve anything. It's ugly, guys. It is ugly. Saints are 2-5. Falcons and Bucks are both 4-2. Falcons play the Seahawks at home this weekend. Bucks have the Ravens at home. So if even one of those teams wins, you're 3 games behind and behind on the tiebreaker with 10 games to go. So it's early, but it's the math is getting tough here for the Saints. You're gonna have to get a win and get back on the right track, and then really start to roll. And at this point, frankly, that just seems totally unrealistic. It seems totally unrealistic. Rojo Fish says Loomis said to look beyond the results, and Payton yesterday said we are in the business of collecting wins. It's pretty well put. We can look beyond the results to a certain extent, but when you lose 5 in a row, it's hard to ignore that. All right, not much more to say. We'll wait for our guys from the locker room, see if there's any new information from there. And in the meantime, we'll take another break here on the Saints Insider postgame show.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Your trusted two-lane doctors are now at East Jefferson General Hospital. Within these walls, you'll find our region's leaders in academic medicine, where state-of-the-art facilities house the innovation powered by two-lane medicine, where collaborative care and compassion meet, and where our commitment to patient outcomes means a healthier future for our community. Two-lane doctors at East Jeff. When you see the shield, you'll know the future of medicine is here.
All right, welcome back to the Saints Insider postgame show. Zach Ewing live with you at the Superdome. Looking during the break, some interesting comments coming out of the locker room. First of all, at halftime on Amazon Prime Video, Richard Sherman, the former All-Pro cornerback who's an Amazon analyst now, said that the Saints looked like a team that wanted to get its head coach fired, talking about their effort. I think particularly on defense. You did see it somewhat maybe in the running game on offense, and probably echoing a lot of y'all's feelings about the way that they played. Dennis Allen was asked about that in the postgame, and he said he did not agree with Richard Sherman. He doesn't think that the team has quit on him. He doesn't think that there's a lack of effort. I don't know. What's he going to say? What is he going to say to that? Let's see. Alvin Kamara, I've been here 8 years. I've never seen the dome clear out like that. I can't blame them. They're fed up. I don't. Sean Payton is saying that Saints are the last of the 32 NFL teams he hadn't defeated, so now he's got all 32. He said he was asked what he told Dennis Allen, and he said he told DA to get healthy, that they've got a good football team. And look, we saw that in the first 2 weeks of the season, that what this team can do, what their ceiling is. And yes, it was against the Panthers and the Cowboys, who obviously that win looks less impressive than it did at the moment, but they're 3-3. That's an average football team, and you went into their place and beat them down 44-19. We saw what this team's ceiling is when it's healthy. But it's a little bit like a house of cards. We've heard Jeff Duncan use that term before, and you've started to pull some of those high face cards and aces out of that house of cards. You know, you take the starting quarterback out, you take Derek Carr out, Chris Olave out. Tonight is Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo on defense. Demario Davis missed a game. There's a lot of cards out of that deck right now, and the house has fallen down. So Saints have 10 days to build it back up. They play the Chargers in LA on October the 27th. Follow that up with a couple of division games at Carolina, home here against Atlanta to open November. And then they play Cleveland here on November the 17th before their bye week. So it's not a daunting schedule, I wouldn't say. And you know, you got to get healthy, you got to get better. I mean, that's number one. I do think that's probably the number one reason. If these were the Saints starters out here and they give up like that and they get beat like that, Dennis Allen's job is definitely on the line. But the Saints don't do that sort of thing anyway, and they've got this built-in excuse of all the injuries. I don't think DA is going anywhere, unfortunately. DA said for the weekend he's going to go to Savannah, Georgia, and see his son. So he's going to get out of here. He said the players are going to get the weekend off, hopefully to rest up and get healthy. William says, I've been saying Rattler was overhyped. Yeah, look, there is nothing wrong with fans hoping for the best. Hope can be great medicine. And I think everybody does hope maybe that Spencer Rattler is the next great Saints quarterback. But when you're pinning your hope on a fifth-round rookie who, frankly, wasn't all that productive in college, played on mediocre college teams, I don't know, guys. I mean, maybe Spencer Rattler, he definitely has some skills. Maybe one day he'll be a good quarterback. You can just see out there the NFL game is moving a little too fast for him. And he struggled. Even last week in the first half when he was playing well, he struggled to find some open receivers down the field. He would tuck the ball and run sometimes when there were gains to be had. You saw some indecisiveness tonight. And the Broncos have a very good defense. The Broncos will make a lot of quarterbacks look bad. So that's not a knock on Spencer. It's just the way it is. You can't expect a rookie. Look, top two picks in the draft. Caleb Williams struggled in his first couple of starts for the Bears. Jaden Daniels, he struggled for a start in Tampa Bay. He didn't play all that great, and then he's played pretty great since then. But he's the exception and not the rule. Look at the opposing quarterback, Bo Nix, also struggled. All right, we got Jeff Duncan here as we continue on the Saints Insider postgame show. Jeff, I was running out of things to say about this game, so yeah. I'm glad you're here. What do you have to say?
Well, I just came from the locker room, and as you can imagine, there's it's a pretty grim locker room, but I would say that it was a lot of leaders still in there sticking around to kind of speak for the team, which is more than they did a week ago.
That's something you criticized on Sunday. Yeah.
Right, and so I think that's a good sign. Alvin Kamara had a lot of interesting things to say about he said this is the worst it's been since he's been here. I think that's pretty, staggering statement. And Demario Davis asked him about the comments from Richard Sherman tonight about the team supposedly quitting on Dennis Allen. He did not agree with that at all. I asked him why he felt that way, and he said that he thinks his teammates are giving effort, even though I know this is now 2 games in a row, over 200 yards rushing. He said they're just right now just kind of trying to find their way. It's the way he described it. He goes, but everyone had to look in the mirror, and they've got to get together as a team, as leaders, and try and dig their way out of it. That's what he said tonight. But I was impressed the fact that they were all in there facing the music.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the injuries, and I think that's kind of a built-in excuse for the offense, at least. Right. We did see some, Paulson Adebo and Marshawn Lattimore both leave the game on the defense. And I think Demario Davis is not playing 100%. I think Tyrann Mathieu maybe isn't 100%. He dropped the ball while his forearm has this problem and those sorts of things. But it does feel like from the outside looking in, there were at least some plays where effort was an issue.
Yeah, and I think that's the case for a few games I've watched. And I don't think it's just one player. I think it might be one player on one down, one player on the next. And you're just not seeing 11 men run to the ball on defense. And clearly they're having trouble too, I think, just flat out schematically stopping the run. They're getting outflanked. They're not getting off blocks. And to me, that's effort, not getting off blocks. But there's just a lot of things going wrong right now. I mean, the offense is obviously so injury plagued. They can't do really anything. And then defensively, they're just having so many schematic problems, I think, in addition to the effort. It's just there's not a lot to be positive about right now. I mean, I wish there were, but, I mean, this is back-to-back blowout losses at home, and we haven't seen anything like this maybe back to the Jim Haslett era.
Yeah, I mean, the stat flowing around tonight, Sean Payton's in the building. In the Sean Payton era, they lost two home games by 20 or more points in the entire 15 years he was here.
Right.
They've now lost back-to-back home games
by look,
20 points.
And if Bo Nix could hit the broadside of a barn, this thing might have been a 40-point game. I mean, he really struggled tonight. He's not known for being the most accurate guy in the world, but he's more accurate than what he showed tonight. I mean,
that first drive especially was awful.
Yeah, he was really struggling tonight with his accuracy. There were guys wide open. He couldn't hit her. This thing could have really been ugly early. So the Saints, I don't know where they go from here. I asked Dennis Allen afterward, what's the approach from here? And, he had a kind of a weird answer. He said, they're going to try and get back in the building, but it sounds like they're going to get away a little bit. He said he's going out to visit his son in California. I'm not sure that was the right answer right now. It might be a little tone deaf for the fans, but he's really embattled right now. This is a game he kind of had to win, or needed to win, I should say. And the last thing he needed was to get blown out by his mentor in a game that he really needs to kind of, keep the Wolves at bay. And
the Wolves are at the door.
Yeah, I mean, as Cam Jordan said, Sean Payton smells blood in the water, and I think it was all over that field tonight.
Let's talk about Dennis Allen, and we're going to keep these interviews pretty short tonight, just because it's late and what is there to talk about? But we got to talk about Dennis Allen. I mean, we all said this before the season started. If the Saints are 2-4 coming into this game and they get blown out, we all knew it was going to be a big game. It was going to be a referendum on Dennis Allen, and that's exactly what came to transpire. They're 2-5 now. Now they have the built-in excuse of the injuries. I mean, if you take the starting quarterback, the top two receivers, and two starting offensive linemen, maybe the best two offensive linemen off of any team in the NFL, I don't care who they are, they're going to have some struggles. The defense is another story. Where do you think it stands with DA?
That's what I was going to say. Broncos punted on the first drive tonight and scored on 6 straight drives.
They crossed the 50 on every drive in the first half.
Right.
Yeah.
That defense is supposed to be his calling card. And I think on our Saints Insider podcast this week, I said, I want to see how this defense responds, what kind of energy and effort they play with tonight, because it's going to tell me a lot about how much buy-in Dennis Allen has. I didn't see it tonight. I'm sorry. I just did not see it in any way. I saw a few guys selling out, but there was just too much lackadaisical play. Every time Denver ran the ball, that the ball carrier got 2 or 3 extra yards. That's simply effort. And Alvin Kamara even referenced that tonight, as far as like people need to look in the mirror. And I don't know if there's a team meeting is going to help this team at this point, but I think they got some serious problems right now with motivation and confidence that Dennis Allen can lead them out of this.
This franchise has made, I think, one midseason coaching change in 57 years. They do have the 10-day break here. Is there any chance in your mind that Dennis Allen's replaced before the LA game? It
would be completely out of character with this organization. It's just not the method of operation that they've practiced since I've been here. In the Pelican side of the operations, the same way. They just do not make decisions like that midseason. In some ways, they're almost defiant about it.
Yeah.
And I just would be very surprised. Dennis Allen has a lot of trust or loyalty, I should say, from Gail Benson and Mickey Loomis. I think, if anything, they'll rally behind him as opposed to try and make a change. Now, what I could see potentially, and this may not pacify fans that are looking for bigger changes, but I could see some lineup changes, some personnel changes on the field. And I think that might be something that might shake this team up a little bit. Maybe you make some bold moves in the starting lineup to kind of shake things up and maybe send a wake-up call to some people. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be, but
You're going to have to get some healthy bodies before you can.
Yeah, well, say you start, and I'm just throwing something out there, like maybe you bench Chase Young, you know what I mean? Like, or something like that, a big name, somebody that hasn't been that effective on the field, maybe something like that. I don't know. Is that going to, pull them out of this tailspin? Probably not, but I think we'll see that before we see a change in coaching.
All right, he's Jeff Duncan, Times-Picayune columnist. His column's already up on NOLA.com, and plenty more to come throughout the 10-day break. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, appreciate
that.
Right.
Up next here on the Saints Insider postgame show, brought to you by Tulane Doctors, Times-Picayune Saints beat writer Matthew Paris. Matt, that was dreary.
It was. You get caught writing in the third quarter. You're pounding away your game story. I looked up, and half the place was gone. So
they could leave. We had to stick around, yeah.
It was you get wrapped up in writing, and you're like, holy cow, and watching the game, of course. So
yeah. Look, Jeff and I were just talking. The offense has some built-in excuses. I'm not saying they couldn't have played better, but you're facing a good defense. You've got a backup quarterback, backup offensive lineman, no receivers. I mean, everything that could be wrong is wrong. The defense has fewer excuses.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only injuries are Will Harris, starting safety, Pete Werner, starting linebacker, and then you lost the starting cornerback tonight with Paulson
during the game, and then Lattimore
as well. But
that was late.
Yeah, it was. These aren't the types of injuries that should cost you your season, and they really have no excuse. I mean, this is Dennis Allen, like Jeff said. It's Dennis Allen's calling card. It's uncharacteristic of them to have a slide like this. I know they lost 5 in a row in 2021. They were 2-5 in 2022. But that's the thing about Dennis Allen's teams is the defense is they do find ways to kind of patch it together, but the slide isn't enough. Like, it's not enough to overcome the initial slide. Like that's the problem here. I mean, they could rally and win 5 more games depending if they get healthy, but that still puts you at 7-10,
right? And
you're not able to overcome that early season hole.
Some plays from tonight, I guess by the time the second half rolls around, it's over. But they did get a stop on the initial drive of the game, and Spencer Rattler hits Foster Moreau for a 32-yard gain, and things look like, hey, they may come to play tonight. But that drive stalls out. You give up a field goal, Rattler fumbles, you give up another field. It just kind of snowballed. It's hard to pinpoint an exact moment, but I do think of Javonte Williams' first touchdown run, the 8-yard run, where you're going, man, that didn't look like an NFL defense.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed early on to me that this game is going to come down to which rookie quarterback screwed up least. And early on, it seemed like Bo Nix was determined to give the game away by missing wide open receivers and wasn't very accurate. But then Rattler, with the fumble, it seemed like in the second half again, just like last week, his accuracy kind of did this. Mm-hmm. Now he was chasing the game. He's under a lot of pressure. Like this loss wasn't on Spencer Rattler, but just given the circumstances of where these two teams were at, both with rookie quarterbacks, they needed someone at least to carry or at least have a support system in place to withstand those rookie quarterbacks. And clearly the Broncos had a much better support team in place to surround their rookie quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We don't have the bell with us, but you come from covering a franchise in Washington where lost seasons and coaching changes were kind of a thing of habit. They're not here. They don't fire coaches midseason, but coming from another franchise, covering another franchise to this one, this feels like that type of situation.
Oh, it does. I mean, this wasn't the worst loss I've ever covered, but there's just an overall mood that sets in that you hear the same things after every week. We have to play better, injuries even for a certain point. You just got there's just a certain kind of atmosphere that sets in, and it just depends on how bad does it get, because I think the only in-season coaching change I covered was Jay Gruden got fired in 2019, and that was after they were just absolutely blown out at home to the Patriots. Now, they've had 2 bad home losses here. They have an extended break, but it's just not how the Saints do things. I think it's since I looked this up prior to the game. Jim Mora was the last coach to be replaced in the season, but he stepped down in 1996. So it's been a minute.
Saints have this break. Obviously, health is one thing that we need to keep an eye on to see who they can get back. What else do you want the answer to in the next 10 days?
Can you learn how to tackle? I mean, it was a problem again. The run defense. That's the thing. It like they should have the personnel to stop the run. It's not like they're small. They prefer these massive defensive ends. They drafted Christian Boyd. They traded for John Ridgway. That like they've addressed hypothetically, run stuffing DNs. They have good linebackers. Secondary seems to be sound tacklers most of the time, but none of it fits. And I know you brought it up with Jeff, but that's kind of why I think Richard Sherman's efforts comments, they might have some validity. I know everyone downplayed it. I know there's really no way to prove that they've quit on Dennis Allen or just quit on the game itself. But man, some of the attempts are so ugly.
Yeah, I mean we'll have to go back and watch it, but I think the film doesn't lie is a common phrase in locker rooms, and the film on this one may not lie as far as that goes.
Right.
All right, he's Matthew Paris. You can check out his game story. It's good. It's very honest. It's on NOLA.com right now. We can go add some quotes to that, and we will see you later.
Yep.
All right, our other Times-Picayune Saints beat writer is Luke Johnson. Luke, you've been the beat writer of this team through some highs and some lows. This may be the nadir.
It might be. Yeah, this is about as bad as it gets. I can't recall a time in my time covering the team where they've lost back-to-back games the way they have. I think the Saints players were honest in the locker room after. Nobody thinks they're not giving the right effort, like kind of Richard Sherman called them out for that. But Alvin Kamara, I think, said it best when he's like, "Look, when you're 1-5, everybody's on the hot, or when you've lost 5 straight, everybody's on the hot seat."
Yeah.
So they understand that if they don't get the ship righted here, that the changes are going to be on the way here.
They say that Richard Sherman's comments about effort were not valid. They didn't agree with them. Do you agree with them? Because Matt and I were just talking about it. It's I think my comment or the comment about their effort in the first half is maybe a little overblown, but I think for the second straight game, I mean, we saw them kind of give up a little bit in the second half, and the game's out of hand. I definitely think there's an element of that involved here. I don't know. I think they're more than anything. I think they were frustrated in that first half because nothing they were doing was working, and it didn't matter if you're talking about offense or defense. It's like everything they were trying to throw at them was just coming up empty. And I think that can kind of lead to some of the stuff that we're talking about right now. Yeah. When you just you're trying so much different stuff, none of it works, and it's just you throw your hands up and you're like, whatever, we're losing, we're getting killed. I think that's kind of where they're at right now. That leads to questions about Dennis Allen. And as we've said, the entire show, the Saints' MO is to not change coaches midseason. We probably don't think that's happening here. Tonight's the first night I felt like the doors at least open a crack, depending on how things go. I mean, do you agree with that?
This is 2 straight games now where the lower bowl of the dome has been empty for much of the fourth quarter. It's been taken over by the opposing team's fans. That's the sort of stuff that spurs action, if there is going to be action. Right, if they are making just considering making a change, that's the sort of stuff where they're showing up on a national TV broadcast, and the "Let's Go Broncos" chants are ringing throughout the Superdome. Place is supposed to be a very tough place to play in the fourth quarter with a lot of time left. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that maybe gets gears turning a little bit. But I still think that the nature of this organization, resistant to change, likes its continuity, with Mickey Loomis kind of being the guy calling the shots. It seems to me like it's unlikely that we'll see a change here in the near future.
The backdrop of Sean Payton being the one to do this to them is something we've talked about. It's obviously a storyline. Do you think that factors into their decision at all?
No. I mean, the thing that should factor into their decision is it was a terrible game.
Yeah.
And there are excuses for that, valid excuses. They're playing without 6 of their 7 most important offensive players tonight. Had absolutely no chance of getting anything going. But, I mean, that was beyond That was beyond the guys who were missing. They're just completely outclassed tonight. Completely outclassed for really the second straight week.
Speaking of the guys missing, all we can really do is read between the lines on injury reports and what guys say. Who is possible to come back for the Chargers game? I mean,
Taysom Hill, Derek Carr was listed as doubtful for this game. That tells me he's at least going to have a chance to practice next week.
Yeah, a long week maybe.
Yeah. They didn't put Cesar Ruiz on injured reserve. I think this was his fourth game that he missed. I think there's maybe an outside chance that he comes back.
Olave
maybe. Who knows with Marshawn Lattimore? I think that's something that maybe could linger. I mean, they need it. They need it really badly, especially when they're going up against a Chargers team that really likes to run the football, and they are a team that right now cannot stop anybody from running the football. Denver came in today averaging 107 yards per game on the ground. They had that at halftime.
Finished with 225. So a rough night all around at the Superdome. He's Luke Johnson, Times-Picayune Saints beat writer. We'll let Luke get to work. You can read his work on NOLA.com, and we'll say goodnight.
All right, good night.
All right.
Let's get these shoes up here, Rod.
Yeah, check out. Let's pan down to Rod's shoes because that might be the best thing on the Saints sideline all night.
I wear these every October. I wore them last year. I don't know if you remember, but
I can't remember last October. I can't remember last month. Last month the Saints were 2-0, man. We're actually on the Broncos sideline, but this is still very flashy. Rod, you went to the Broncos locker room. That's not something we normally do, go to the other team's locker room with one of our primary columnists. But, of course, Sean Payton was over there. What was Sean like in the book? Was he gracious in victory? Was he?
Yeah, I think Sean, I think because they beat him so handily, I think, he kind of talked about, that team's really nicked up. And, he talked about some of the things they wanted to do. He knew that, he talked about Marshawn and Adebo going out and just how he just felt like this is a team that for the Broncos, their formula is pretty simple. Sean wants to, they have a really good defense, so he wants to be able to run the ball. Mm-hmm. And, they have a rookie quarterback, so you don't want to put too much pressure on him. He felt like if they could get an early lead, which they did, because he called out a stat. I think they're like 5-0 when they take the lead and 0-something when they don't have the first lead. So this is a team that kind of, if they get a lead with their defense, he feels like they can win. That was the formula they used tonight. And how convincingly they did it was really impressive. I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but they got, they close to 400 yards, like
389 yards of offense.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first half it was 242, so you're on pace for almost 500 at that point. And then they kind of, they just got real conservative in the second half, which you do with a big lead and a rookie quarterback, and an opposing offense that can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of hard to watch. Jeff Duncan had the tweet from an Alvin Kamara quote. I mean, he just talked about how the fans were. He had never seen the dome empty like it emptied tonight, and the fans are fed up, and he doesn't blame them, and I don't blame him either. I mean, it was really tough to watch tonight, and you just watched something like this, 5 days ago on Sunday. So,
and you got work tomorrow.
You got work tomorrow.
And we know y'all watching have work tomorrow. We appreciate you. We're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. But did you talk to Will Lutz or anybody else?
I didn't get a chance to get in there because I was actually waiting on Sean because he took a long time. I didn't realize that he was doing the Amazon
Prime video
out here. But so I didn't get a chance to talk to any of those guys. But I really wanted to see what Lutz and Malcolm Roach and Lucas Krull, what those guys had to say, because this is a team they played on and they've seen this place rocking before, and so it had to be a little different for them to see it like this.
And I think it meant something to them too. I mean, there's no question about it. Rod, we asked the other guys, and we've established the Saints don't get rid of coaches midseason. I think they've had one midseason coaching change in 57 years, and it was Jim Mora who left of his own accord. They've never actually fired a coach midseason. So we're going back to history of the franchise. Mickey Loomis just gave Dennis Allen the vote of confidence this week. Did tonight change that at all for you? Do you think there's any possibility that they're considering a change?
I think with all the injuries, you can always just kind of say, hey, this team's beat up. That's what Sean Payton said, after the game. But to me, the concern is that the defense, well, now it's beat up because you lose Marshawn and Adebo tonight. But coming to this game, the defense was fairly healthy. I mean, you're missing Pete Werner and Will Harris.
They were already down big by the time Debo goes out, too.
Right.
Yeah, it's
right.
You can't blame it on that.
But to me, to see this defense doing like they're doing, and that's supposed to be Dennis Allen's strength, I think you have to at least start thinking about it. I think you got a mini bye coming up. They get a chance to get a little healthier here. You got 10 days. Hopefully you get some of these guys back. But then you go to LA and you go to Charlotte. I mean, if you lose both of those games, you come back to the Dome and it's going to be really empty then because you're 2-7 at that point.
2-7, and by the way, that would be the Falcons.
That would be the Falcons, yeah. I mean, you come back to here 2-7 with an empty Dome, fans booing, more Falcons fans than Saints fans maybe. I mean, I think you got to start thinking about it then. And you have the bye coming up at
the Falcons and then Cleveland and then the
bye. You get the real bye. So, I mean, if they haven't – I mean, this is a team that the way they look now, that none of these next 4 games look promising. Even the Carolina game, the team they totally dominated in week 1, that game, I'd be interested to see what the spread is on that game when it gets closer.
Yeah. We'll say this. I mean, look, the Saints have, as you said, 4 games before the bye, at the Chargers, at the Panthers, home Falcons, home Browns. If the Saints were to lose all 4 of them, which it's hard to predict that, but now you're on a 9-game losing streak, you're 2-9. Dennis Allen's not surviving the season anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
so at that point, you do have the bye. Maybe that's the point at which you really start to circle, hey, this could be. Now, if they could split those games to 2-2, you probably don't make the move.
Right, yeah. I mean, but 2-9 and the way this crowd will be at that point, I mean, you'd almost have to make I don't see how you play that out to the end of the season. Injuries. I mean, it's not just that they're losing, it's how they're losing.
Mm-hmm.
These games are close and you're like, they're right there, but they're not like that. They haven't been like that for the past 3 weeks.
All right, but ask this question. Besides injuries, what are you curious to see over the next 10 days? I mean, do you think there's a team meeting, a kind of a come to Jesus moments at one of these things for this team that we would be able to tell publicly or that they would talk about?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody will have that conversation at some point between now and the trip to LA. And again, the key for me is getting somebody back. If you can get Derek Carr back, I mean, that kind of gives you a little more hope. And you get Olave back probably.
Cesar Ruiz, yeah.
I mean, you get those guys back.
Taysom.
Yeah, but none of those guys we named play defense. We named all offensive players, so the defense has to be fixed. And I just don't know if it's fixable, especially if you're losing those cornerbacks.
And the Chargers are going to run the ball down your throat. That's what they want to do. So it could get ugly. All right, we're going to talk more. Take a little bit of a break on the Saints Insider podcast, but we'll be back next week to talk about that Chargers game and obviously any changes that happened before then. We will have the news on NOLA.com, and we will talk to you all as we go forward. So for Rod Walker, also our thanks to Jeff Duncan, Matthew Parris, and Luke Johnson for stopping by, and Norman Bell, our cameraman, Spencer Urquhart producing. That will do it for us tonight from the Saints Insider Postgame Show. It's brought to you by Tulane Doctors, and we will see you next time.